Okay, I would like to start our presentation now. Okay, imagine a region where over 1 in 3 teenagers in our school. Actually, in the Vietnam data, the 36% of upper secondary children are not attending school, far above the national average of 22%, according to the UNICEF 2016. And this is a crisis for their future and also in for Vietnam development. And the biggest barrier to the education in rural Vietnam is poverty. According to the Kim Thanh 2016 study, is the most significant driver of school dropout in the Mekong Delta. And the Vietnamese government has tried to address this through some policy like infrastructure investment, financial aid, and food programs. However, dropout rates in rural areas remain high, and in this context, some point out that the targeted cash transfer are a promising solution for that issue. But how can we address this? And today we will have a specific research questions is that how can targeted cash transfer improve school attendance and educational outcome for rural students in Vietnam Mekong Delta?
So for the literature review part, we firstly conduct a research on the global evidence on global cash transfers. So the effectiveness of CCT programs has been proven from many studies, and one of which is the study of Gracia and Saventra, which they meta-analyzed the cost effectiveness of 94 studies and 47 CCT programs and found out that these programs generally significantly improve the overall schooling outcomes. Similarly, the study of Barrett also suggested that CCT programs positively affect the educational outputs. Secondly, we study the human capital approach and how it is related to the CCT programs. So this approach, pioneered by the scholars such as Beckers and Stretch, emphasized that the investment in education, health, and nutrition significantly enhance the individual productivity. And this integration of human capital approach with the design of CCT programs offers an empirically supported strategy for the poverty alleviation. So, the Vietnamese government has came up with various policies to reduce the educational gaps, such as tuition exemptions and textbook supply programs, food aid programs, international aid programs, or infrastructure construction programs. So in the short term, these programs has helped to increase the access to education and also maintain the school attendance. And lastly, we dig deeper into the upper secondary schooling in the Mekong Delta, in which the UNICEF reports that the Mekong Delta has a whopping 36% of out-of-school rates in the upper secondary children. With the budget of spending per student is around 7.38 million VND per year, compared to an average of 8.372 million per year. And this means that this high out-of-school rate is driven by both poverty and underinvestment. So for our empirical findings, we list out the primary factors that affects the dropout rates, which is pulled from the Kim Tan study in 2016, which are the household size, the rural residence, and also the poor household status. So secondly, given these alarming issues to educations, the Vietnamese government also has their interventions. Firstly is the cash transfer and the tuition exams. For children who receive cash or income supports from the government are more likely to continue school by 9.73%. Similarly, those who are supported by charity groups or NGOs are also increased the school continuation by 11.6%. But contrary to the expectation, food aid programs actually reduce the children's likely to study more by 15.9%. And this negative effect, which is noted by Kim Tan study, may stem from an inability to food aid to cover the indirect cost of transportation or the opportunity cost of child labors, despite improving nutritional status. Other government benefits in which the children have a higher dropout probability of 3.69%, while the students who benefits from the social security or subsidies are less likely to drop out. This indicates a variable program effectiveness. So, despite these benefits, Vietnamese educational support policies also face many gaps and remaining challenges. Firstly is the insufficient amounts. Subsidies such as only 120,000 VND for monthly lunch subsidies are often too low to cover the actual expense of transportation, tuition, and opportunity costs. Secondly, one household may receive supports from multiple programs, while this overlapping of responsibility may lead to delay in planning, budgeting, and disbursement. And lastly, the incomplete understanding of policy could also result to a misuse of subsidies and perceptions of unfair treatments among the beneficiaries. So lastly, drawing from the inspiration of Mexico's Progressa program, it is recommended that Vietnam also should adopt a similar program, in which this program launched in 1997, and they focus on the poor and extremely poor families with transfers to mother to address gender bias and also ensures the fund support to children. Secondly, this program also combines school attendance, nutrition, health, and transfer, increasing by the grade level, and higher for girls to address their higher dropout rates. And lastly, they also do robust monitoring where they make the local schools and the clinics to track the attendance, and this will be reported monthly to a federal administrative group. And this program has increased the primary and secondary completion rates and also reduced child labor, improved nutrition rates, and also boosted the academic performance. Now let's move on to the theoretical background.
Before we share our suggestion, let's take a look at the theory foundation behind our proposal. We are using human capital theory, which suggests that people invest in education when long-term benefits, like better jobs or higher income, outweigh the short-term costs, such as fees or lost wages. In rural Vietnam, particularly the Mekong Delta, these costs can be significant. School fees, supplies, and the income lost when kids don't work. Targeted cash transfers can change that equation. Families often prioritize work over school for their kids due to financial pressures. By providing financial support specifically for education, we reduce both direct costs like books or transportation and the opportunity costs of child labor, making it more likely for students to stay in school. Let's dive deeper into the model. The overall idea is quite straightforward. The utility of attending school equals the expected future income resulting from a complete education, minus the total net cost of attending school. If the future payoff from schooling can exceed its cost, families can be open to letting their children complete schooling. To be more specific, the cost of schooling includes both direct costs, such as costs of traveling to school or buying equipment, as well as the indirect opportunity cost, which in the Mekong Delta is often the opportunity cost of child labor. This is where cash transfer comes in. By receiving cash transfer, the financial burden on the household can be eased, leading to a lower net cost of schooling. Through lowering this financial barrier, we can increase the utility of attending school, making it a more viable and possible option for families in this region. With that in mind, we will now share how this model and theory has shaped our policy proposal.
Okay, let's begin with the foundation, financial accessibility. Currently, the monthly subsidy of 140,000 dong is offered to foreign students. But in reality, the cost of education, including to transportation, uniform, book, and extra class, far exceeds this amount. Beyond the human capital theory, our proposals increase the monthly cash transfer to 600 dong per student, along with the annual 500 dong grant at the start of the year. This aligns with inflation adjusted costs in the region and cover both direct and indirect schooling expense. Why this amount? According to the VSLSS 2016, the annual rural education expense averaged 3.5 million Vietnam dong. And that's what 9 years ago. Importantly, the transfer make up to 40% of the average rural household income, while waiting the proven effective range for the improving school attendance. The aim is clear: reducing financial pressures so family don't have to choose between putting food on the table and sending their kids to the school. But money it isn't only the barrier. In the Mekong Delta, upper secondary students often skip school not because they don't value it, but because their labor is need on the farm. To address this, based on human capital approach, we propose a 200 dong per performance-based bonus per semester tied to both attendance, more than 85%, and academic standing. This compensation for the income loss when the student forego work, making education a financially viable choice. Moreover, we suggest a flexible school hour and vocational training, skills like farming and mechanic, delivered in partnership with the local business. Next, even the financial help, students face invisible hurdles. First, transportation. Rainy season floods and long commute prevent students, especially girls, from attending school. The subsidized bus, bike, and travel voucher can trend us. Second, many students lack academic support outside class. Free after-school program run by teachers or university volunteer can close the learning gap and build confidence. Researchers by Banerjee et al. In 2005 wrote that low-cost tutoring leads to significant gain in test performance. Thus, we must engage parents. Many aren't aware of the available benefits or underestimate the long-term values of education. Rules workshop, school meeting, or how visits, we can shift the perception just like the Mexico professor program, which successfully combined cash transfer with the parental outreach. One size fits all solution don't work in this reason. Next, we talk about the Mekong deltas in the homes of the Khmer, Cham, and other ethnic groups, many of whom are faced deep to the structural disadvantage, from the flood road to the income-sharing family structure. The policy is prioritizing the localized benefit selection, which means that targeting remote and ethnic minorities communities like those in Chavin, Sóc Trăng, Bến Tre, and Cà Mau. But the selection didn't right. We propose using the community knowledge and involving respected local figure in verifying need. We done in this way to support the rich, those who need it most, those who might otherwise be invisible to the national database. Finally, we address the systemic, the government fragmentation, multiple ministry, education, labor, and the local ministry are all involved in educational aid, but without this lead to the duplication, efficiency, and waste resources. Our solution is an inter-ministry task force and centralized dashboards for real-time data sharing, improving the targeting and reducing overlap. Additionally, we propose a digital disbursement through the mobile banking or the e-wallet to reduce the leakage and ensure every DOM or reach its destination. The models is proven. In Kenya and India, digital cash transfer is significantly reduced the fraud and delivery delay. That's all we want to share. Let's go forward with limitation.
As optimistic as we are about the potential of targeted cash transfer, our suggestions are not without its limitations. Our data has gaps and constraints that might miss specific details or representation about ethnic groups in the Mekong Delta region. Proving that cash transfers alone can directly improve education is also tricky. International examples and case studies that we have explored during the development of this proposal may also not fully apply to the Vietnamese context due to cultural differences. Finally, the success of this policy depends on strong local governance, which we cannot yet guarantee.
And in conclusion, the Vietnam rural Mekong Delta demand a urgent action for education. While Vietnam efforts are commendable, insufficient funding, quick coordination, and limited coverage of costs hinder progress. So the targeted cash transfer addressing both direct and indirect costs offer a path forward, supported by the transportation, after-school program, or parent engagement, and strengthened by the coordination of the government and reduce the fund leakage. This program can significantly lower the dropout rate of the Mekong Delta. Together, these recommendations pave a way for the improved educational equity and the social economic mobility in the Mekong Delta, and let ensure every child in the Mekong Delta had the opportunity to learn and succeed. Thank you.